Hey, how you guys doing? My name is Scottie Dugan, and I'm with one of the trainers with Loop Community. And today we're going to go over arrangement view, and we're going to apply that to performing in arrangement view. So I think today I'm going to walk everyone through creating a set to perform with on stage in arrangement view, and then we will go over some tips and tricks to perform, maybe do some MIDI mapping, and then answer some of your guys' questions that will come up along the way. Matt McCoy is with me in the chat, and he's going to be feeding some questions to me as we go. So please make sure you ask those questions in the chat, and I'll answer them as quickly as I can. So I hope everyone's doing well today. I am doing great. I just had my daughter come home, and she said hi to me for the first time today, so I'm excited to just be with you guys as well. So let's get started. Right now, I have Ableton Live 9 Suite up, and for those of you who aren't on 9 yet, the Loop Community actually has some really cool things going on right now. We have Live Suite 9 on sale. So normally it is $7.99, and right now you can buy Suite 9 for $6.79. So that's quite a bit of a sale going on. So keep that in mind if you're not upgraded yet. There's also some other great ways to get your hands on Suite 9 if you haven't yet. But back to Live. This is going to work for the most part in both Live 9 and Live 8. There's some little differences between the two software, and I'll make sure to tell you the differences as we go for the features that I'm using. So let's get started. All right, so I'm going to tab over to Arrangement View, and I'm just going to get rid of the songs that we were playing during the countdown. And we'll start by talking about adding a track to Arrangement View. So I have a folder added in my browser that I've compiled a lot of the tracks that I've either created or I've used or I've bought or anything like that. So I have them labeled pretty well. I have the name, the key it's in, and then the BPM. And this helps me add these very easily and very quickly. The first song, a set list I've planned for today is we've got Search My Heart, Like a Lion, Mighty to Save, and Beautiful Things. Two of these are tracks that emulate the record version. So Beautiful Things, I have the strings, and then Search My Heart, I have kind of the synthesizer, piano sound. And then the other two, Mighty to Save and Like a Lion, I've kind of done a remix. A friend of mine and I go like a duo, so it's me on keys and synths and him on electric and leading. So we have a lot of backing tracks, so drums, bass, a lot of stuff is in the track. So I'll show you that as well. The first thing I want to do is let's do Search My Heart. And this is just a folder on my hard drive. So in the browser, I'm just looking at a folder that's living on my computer. We'll do Search My Heart. And now the really cool thing with using the browser here is that I can drag in the set, and it's going to pull in all the information and all the tracks, all the clips, and even all the plugins or devices that I have saved with that set. So we're going to do Search My Heart Bounce and pull that directly into Arrangement View. Let go. And here are all of my tracks and all of my clips. So you'll notice most of these have been bounced down to audio, and there's one that's still a MIDI clip. If I double click on the title, we can see I'm triggering an Arturia Minimoog plugin. So that'll be happening in real time. So next, I'm just going to do a little house cleaning. I usually put the original scratch track on there. And that's how I like to program a lot. I will stick in the original one and then build my tracks or my parts around it. That way I just know exactly what's going on. It's also very nice in rehearsal, so if someone's like, hey, I don't remember the chorus, how it started, we can unmute that and listen to it during rehearsal. So let's change the BPM to match the BPM of these tracks. It's at 132, so I'm going to change it up at the top, type in 132. So now if I turn on my metronome and hit play, they should be all lined up.
1, 2, 3, go!
Okay, let me just, for the sake of this broadcast, let me just change some routing here. I'm just going to send these to a return. Okay, and I'm just doing this so I have some volume control over all of our tracks here, all of these tracks. So if I hit play again,
1, 2, 3,
go. Okay, so everything lines up just fine. I'm going to actually replace these the cues that I like to use with the Loop Community cues. I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to delete that track. I'm going to insert a MIDI track. The shortcut on a Mac is Command-Shift-T, or we can go to Create, Insert MIDI track. And now I'm going to go find the Loop Community packs that I have saved. Let's see where it's at. Let's go to Instruments, Drum Rack. So here I have the Loop Community cues. I apologize, Mike, if these aren't the most recent ones.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And let's change this. Okay, there we go. So now I'm just going to create a clip, and the shortcut is Command-Shift-M. So I've created a MIDI clip here. I can double-click on it, and now I can write in my MIDI notes that trigger those samples.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So now I can fly that around wherever I want it. Let's find the chorus or the pre-chorus. So I've just held Option, and that's allowed me to copy it when I drug it. Okay, so I'd create another count in for the verse. Okay, so I can continue doing this. The next thing I can do is add some locators. So I believe this is the second verse. Yep. So I can right-click up here in the scrub area and add a locator and say verse. So now I can actually trigger this in real time, and this is all going to play off of the global quantize. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the global quantize, if I'm playing somewhere in the middle of a track, I can launch the verse at any time I want to, and it won't start playing until the beginning of one bar, and that's set here in the global quantize. I'm going to launch on maybe a 2 or a 3. I can go straight to the verse, it's in time, and the band won't get messed up once I play. chorus again, do the same thing. Right click, add locator, type in chorus. If I ever want to go back to the chorus, I can simply click there. We can also MIDI map this, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. That will allow us to use controllers to move around in arrangement view without having to check our email or use our fingers on the map on the computer. All right. So next, let's say we're at the end of this song, and we want to go into song number 2. Well, the beautiful thing about Live is that we can create transitions that are very seamless and very musical. And the big thing about Live is we can change tempo, and it's easy to automate a tempo change in Live 9 and Live 8. I'm going to unfold the master track here, and wherever I click on a global setting, so here's tempo, maybe we'll do a time signature, and the cool thing is if I click on, say, the master gain, it automatically puts that automation lane up in front for me. So if you can't see the tempo, all you have to do is click on it, and there it is. So this song is at 132, and let's do Mighty to Save. Go back into my browser, and we've got Mighty to Save in A at 74 BPM. So how do we transition from 132 to 74 and make it feel and sound good and all line up? The easiest way is to make a jump. So jump from 132 to 74 and put a count in there. And what I'm going to do is find a good spot to make that jump. So maybe right here at 125. So I'm going to add a locator and just call that Mighty to Save. Okay. And copy and paste a MIDI clip. And then here's the trick. To get this automation lane perfectly at 74, what I'm going to do is change the maximum and minimum range. So I can change the minimum range to 74, which allows me to draw in that automation, and it will be perfectly at 74. So bam, we've made a jump from 132 to 74. Okay, so we might need to create a subdivision here. We can do that as well. Just need to right click again and insert a time signature change. So right now we are in 4/4, 4 beats per measure, quarter note gets one of those beats. So let's do a subdivision. We can do 8/8. So 8 beats in a measure, and eighth note gets 1 beat.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, and we can do the exact same thing we did with our first set of tracks when we went to import the Mighty to Save tracks. I'm just going to drag those in, and it pulled them all in for me. Now I'm just going to select them all and move them over to measure 125. Now, excuse me, so now it'll sound something like this. Let me just change the routing real quick. Go. All right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And if we wanted to, we can consolidate down our track count. So I have a scratch, I call it a scratch track here, and we can actually put those on the same track. I'm just going to move it up and put it on the same track.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, great. The only thing you have to watch out for is the crossfade. So say these strings are fading out. You just want to make sure if you have a ending track and a beginning track and they need to crossfade, you'll just have to put them on separate tracks and crossfade them however you want. So it looks like we've got some questions so far. Let me get some of the questions from Matt and see if there are any. Well, we'll give Matt a second to give me a question. Okay, here we go. Can you jump to a part in the song and still count the band in? I'm guessing you're thinking, let me jump to a part of the song and still count the band in. Are you asking if we can have a count off into a different part of the song? Okay, great. Yes, that's the question. So what I would do personally, there's a long way to do it that's pretty complex, but there's also I would say that maybe a more simple way to do it, and that would be simply to create a count in. So you have a count in into this chorus. So I would say the simplest way would be to move the chorus locator back a measure. And then you just have to be on the ball whenever you trigger that chorus to know it's a measure before the chorus. That's probably the easiest way. You can create a separate clip. So let's say we have the count off, and whenever I launch a part of one of these songs, so verse, chorus, whatever, I can simultaneously launch or switch to the chorus and launch a clip next to it. So this would require you to be able to stomp on your MIDI controller or whatever you're using right on beat. So that's another way I've seen people do it. But I would say this is probably the easiest and simplest way to do it. You just have to kind of change your mindset to launch it a measure ahead of the measure count-in. I've also, worship leaders, if you're leading worship, they'll usually say, "Hey, let's go, back to the chorus, or sing the chorus again." So I think relying on the worship leader to direct the song with vocal cues or hand cues would be more beneficial to your band than relying on the actual count-offs if you're going to be changing where you're going. Let's see if there's another question. Question, do you recommend using the built-in Ableton metronome? Well, I like it. I like the sound of it. I think it punches through the mix very easily. It's also a lot easier than creating a bunch of MIDI tracks. We can definitely do that. So let's look at what it would take to not use the built-in metronome. So I'm going to select some time here. I'm going to consolidate that. So this will create one MIDI clip. There we go. Double click on it. And the built-in LC cues have a click sample. So now we just have to zoom into a quarter note or whatever subdivision we want. And now I can create a MIDI note that triggers that click sample. duplicate it down the whole length of the song. Now I can turn the metronome off, the built-in metronome, hit play.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And I can replace this sample with any sound I want. So a lot of guys use an MPC click sound, you know, cowbell, shaker. I know Tomlin's band uses a shaker sound. They like it because it's more musical and not so ear-piercing. Okay, so we have another question that is, can you go over tempo automation again? I have a hard time drawing it in. We'll do that again. So I have one automation here. Let's add another song. So let's do Like a Lion. This is by a guy named Tony Bashta, but I believe Crowder covered it. I believe. I don't remember. But let us drop in the Like a Lion. So, okay. Right now, our set is at 132 for the first half, and I've automated it down to 74. We can see that right here. I've also automated and changed the time signature. So the beginning part of the song is at 4/4. We can see that here. And when we switch to MIDI to save, I changed the time signature to 8/8, so we have some subdivisions. So let's add MIDI to save, and I'll show you exactly how to automate the tempo. We can do a jump like we are here, or we can do something gradual, and I'll show you how to do that this time. So right now we're at 74. So I'm going to change, make sure that the lowest value for the song tempo is 74, and the highest, now let's do 123. That's what Like a Lion is. So now, if I change to the pencil tool here, the shortcut is to hit B or hold B in Live 9. I can now make an automation change, or an automation, draw in some automation. And no matter how high I try and draw this, it will not go above this highest setting here. So I can't go above 123. So that is the easiest way to make sure your tempo is exact. Just change the minimum and maximum range here. And now I know that it's jumping from 74 up to 123. We can listen to that.
Jesus conquered the grave.
Okay? And we can also do a gradual. Let's make sure this is warped. And warping will allow us to change the tempo of the tracks and have them stick around and update with the tempo of the set. We could speed up, say, the last two measures. I'm just going to write in a breakpoint and then delete one, and now watch what happens.
Jesus conquered the grave.
Now that's that probably is pretty hard for your band to follow, so I would recommend doing the hard jump, and then we can grab one of these count-offs and put it right there when the tempo changes.
One, two, three, four.
And then I would just drop in the new set of tracks or clips. Okay. I did mine to save again. Let's do like a lion. There we go. Okay. And remember, the only way you can pull in sets from the browser and make it work is if you save this set with information in arrangement view. So if I hit File Save and there was no information in arrangement view, excuse me, when I drag over a set from the browser, it will not do anything. So whenever you save these, make sure you save them with the tracks and the clips exactly where you want to, where you want them when you pull them in later. So right now I actually have the clips saved in arrangement view and in session view. So whenever I pull something in, the clips go to both sides, both views. Let's select all these tracks, all these clips, and move it down to the next location in our set. There we go. Let's hear what that sounds like.
Heroes and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave.
1, 2,
2,
3,
3, 4.
4.
So I have some count-offs bounced, and of course all you need to do is drag this new clip that we just made wherever we want it to be. All right, let's see. We have another question. My tracks show only in arrangement view, but when I tab over to session view, they're not there. How do I get them to show in both? Can you explain how arrangement view and session view work together? That is a great question. I think I kind of answered it, why you don't see clips in one view and not the other when you're pulling stuff in from the browser. However, how do we save our clips or our songs in the browser so that we can recall them later and get them both in session view and arrangement view? Okay, so let's delete some of these. I'm just going to remove some time here. Well, yeah, let's do it. So I've made a track, some tracks for this song. Okay, it sounds like this. I have my scratch track down here, so I can activate that. Take a listen to the original. So this is exactly how I want it. This is how I've programmed it. This is how I want it to always be. So I can do a couple different things now. The first one would be to select all of the tracks that I'm currently using. So I'm just going to hold Shift and select the first and last one. And now I'm going to navigate somewhere on my hard drive. Personally, I have a folder named Tracks. And let's just drag the track title over into the browser. So now it's going to ask for a set name. We can call this like a lion B2 and B at 123 BPM. Hit enter, and if the samples that this set is referencing aren't already saved, it's actually going to save those to the samples folder. So now, if I were to drop this in a set, all those tracks come with. Now if I drag from the title, the track title, it's going to bring over any devices that I have on that track as well. So if I have an EQ, compression, delay, reverb, whatever, that's going to come along with it. So I believe part of the question was, but when I tab over to session view, they're not there. Okay. So if I were to tab now, I have all of my clips here as well. And that's because I saved these sets with clips in both arrangement view and in session view. So let's pretend like these aren't here. Delete them. So I tabbed over to session view and they're not here. Well, this is really easy to solve. We can select all of our clips. I'm just going to select the first one at the bottom and the one at the top. I'm going to click and hold as if I'm going to drag them around and hit tab. And now I can drop them into session view. Okay? So now, if I were to save by dragging these track into the browser, whenever I recall it or pull it back in, we'll have clips in both arrangement view and in session view. There's also another really cool way to move tracks from arrangement view into session view, and it's brand new with Live 9. And let me show you. I'm just going to delete some of these tracks, clean up a little bit. Okay. Make sure these are routed correctly. Right? So now, under Create, we have Consolidate Time to New Scene. So some guys like to launch each individual part of their song.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Let's see what's going on here. We have Like a Lion, 123, not 132, 123. And we can tell that this is not being automated because there's no pink dot next to the BPM. If I hit play, this will line up perfectly.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, scrub a little bit. Okay, so now let's select the intro. And I just want to make a scene in session view that is just the intro. Let's find the chorus or maybe the verse.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Let's measure 10. I'm just going to select time here. So I want this time in a scene in session view. So I can do create, consolidate time to new scene. And now I have just that time I've selected in session view. I can go along and do this to the verse. Let's do that. Create, consolidate time to new scene. Now I have a new scene with just the verse. So this is really cool if you create your tracks and you have a bunch of clips. So maybe it looks something like this. If you were to try to drag that into session view, you'd have 4 or 5 different clips. But the consolidate time to new scene actually takes care of that for you. So I think that's enough for session view for now. We're going to focus on arrangement view. And guys, if you have any questions, make sure you check out the one-on-one training too. We'll do a lot of these broadcasts and help you guys out as much as we can. But we also have one-on-one training. So myself, Matt McCoy, a couple other trainers are more than happy to sit down with you one-on-one, answer all of your questions, show you exactly how this works with your setup, and help you solve the problems and solve the dreams and have the dreams come into fruition that you want to do with software. I think we have trainers for Ableton Live, we have trainers for Mainstage and for Reason. So make sure you check that out if you want some one-on-one training. So the next question we have is when you change your max range to 123, does it mess up the first song that had 135? The answer is, as long as you use an automation lane, no, it does not change. So right now we're at 123. Let's make the minimum amount 123. Oh, we gotta change this first. We want to gradually increase the last half of the song to speed it up to 130 to get into song number 2. As long as I use an automation lane, nothing is being messed up at the top. If I were to try and do it by typing it in manually here, that will mess it up. But if you use automation, nothing's going to change the automation lane by changing the minimum maximum range. Nothing's messing up here. The only thing that might mess up, this is on Live 8. Say this automation lane is at 123, and you move this down to 120 or something. You might not be able to see the automation lane, but they solved that quite nicely in Live 8. Or I'm sorry, Live 9. You can't see this lane in Live 8 and you have automation. That's just because your minimum and maximum ranges aren't including where your automation is. So the next thing is MP3s and Ableton Live are the worst. They throw off timing. So we always like to work with waves. MP3s, they add time to the beginning of the clip. I guess it has to do with rendering. They add silence at the very beginning. So, for example, if we had the beginning of a clip, these are all waves, or AIF are great too. Wave or AIF are great, and they sound the best. MP3s can start sounding pretty bad. If this was an MP3, the beginning of this waveform might be something like, let's say we bounced it from our DAW from 0, but when we import it, it might look something like this, and it's all behind. No good. Now you can go in and solve that. I would say that's more of a warping issue, or more of a getting tracks into arrangement view. We can go over that a little bit, I guess. The easiest thing to do is to go in just like I did here, say, oh, well, this is actually the downbeat, and move your start time to the beginning of the waveform. Sometimes that's hard if you have multiple tracks, and you can actually do that with multiple tracks at the same time. So let's say these are all off. They're not, but they are. Let's just pretend like they are. We can come in here, say it looks something like, oh, let's back it up. Okay, so let's say our tracks look something like this. This is actually the downbeat. There's this little bit of time ahead of all these tracks, and it's throwing everything off when you're using the built-in metronome, or when you're cutting things with the grid, and you're trying to use location. It's just throwing everything off. So the easiest thing to do would be go in here and zoom in really, really far, and find where the track is supposed to start. So it's supposed to start right here, but when we bounce the MP3, it starts here. We don't want that. So I'm just going to select the time we don't want, we want to get rid of. And the shortcut is Command-Shift-Delete. Let's see where it is. We have a delete time command. And this is great. It deletes that time and moves all of our tracks, all of our clips, up to the beginning. So now we solved that problem in one easy step. So that's MP3s. They're annoying. Don't use them if you can. But if you have to, that's the easiest way to take care of it. Just select a time that you don't want, Command-Shift-Delete to delete time. And that deletes all the time over all these clips. So everything is moved up and they're all in line again. All right, so what's next? Oh, and you'll never have to worry about MP3s if you buy loops from Loop Community. Just wanted to throw that in there. How do you control time signature changes in arrangement view? For example, how can I go from 4/4 to 7/8 and keep the click pitch correct? Well, luckily, time signature changes don't mess with your clips. It just messes with your grid and with, of course, the metronome. So if I want to do something crazy and do 7/8, like this person suggested, we can have the song rolling 4/4. Now I want to add a time signature change, say at 1:13. We'll do insert time signature change and do 7/8. So we're not changing the clip. We're not changing the timing of the clip. It's not being. It's not like changing the tempo. Where if all these clips were warped and we changed the tempo, that would slow down the clips. Changing the time signature doesn't mess with the clips at all. It only messes with the grid and the accent with the metronome, the built-in metronome. And it's really cool because if you update the time signature, change the time signature, the grid and the measures update too. So I can change a time signature back to 8/8, and now we can see the grid has actually updated. If we drag these around, it'll update as well. And sometimes, for like here, you'll see a broken measure. So here we have some odd time here. We have a measure of just 2 beats. And it gives us this gray bar to let us know, hey, this isn't a full measure. Do you want to fix it? Do you not want to fix it? We can change it from the menu. We can add time to create a full measure, or we can just back it out and remove time. Or we can just drag the time signature change to a bar. So next question, how do you combine multiple clips under one heading like the bass clips in the last example? Okay, that's easy. Let's say, for example, we have 2 bass, they're tracks, bass track 1, bass track 2, and they've been grouped into a single track. Now this is really cool because we can organize our sets like this. We can organize different instruments like this. So let me just solo out these 2 different tracks and let you hear what they sound like. So we have bass number 1, here's bass number 2. And I have grouped them together because I think they're a unit. They basically play together the whole song, almost. And whenever I want to change something with one, I want to change something with the other. So if I want to do volume changes, I can change the volume of the bass's subgroup here, and it will change that submix. So let me back up and explain that for a second. Right now, bass 1 and bass 2 are being submixed to this bass's channel, and we can see that by showing the I/O. These chooser menus will let us select where these tracks are routed to. So right now, just for the sake of this broadcast, we are having everything being sent to a send. This is a send and return. So everything's being sent to this return. I can then use a MIDI mapping to change the volume or the level of that bus, that return. So everything is being sent to that send. You'll notice these 2 bass tracks are being submixed to the group that it's in. So it's in the group basses. We can break that, or we can just have it be submixed to this bass track. So now if I play this, and I can change the volume of both of these tracks by having them grouped. I can solo, pan, and I can also add effects. So look, I have dynamic processing, multiband dynamics, basically an EQ, utility, and a limiter on that bass track, and it's affecting both of these. Now, how do we create a group? Well, it's super easy. Let's say I want all of my, let's take a step back. Say I want all of my keys sounds on one track, but I don't want to break them apart. I don't want to submix them. Maybe I'll come back and change them later, or maybe my keyboard player is going to play the strings part. So I want the ability to mute one of them, but I want to submix them so I can mix them all together with one fader. So I'm going to select all the tracks that I want to group. Just held shift to select them all. Right click, and I can select group. So now I've created a submix. I can fold this away, can show it, fold the individual tracks, and notice they kept all of their volume settings. So panning is going to stay the same. If I were to pan these and group them, you're not going to lose any of that information. You can also group by song. I've seen a lot of guys do this, to where this is Like a Lion, and maybe I want all of my tracks for one song grouped together, just for the ease of having it all on one track. Group them up, rename this, and now I have all those tracks for that one song together. It's so easy. Let's see what's next. Do keyboard MIDI mappings created in arrangement view still operate correctly when in session view and vice versa? Let me try and figure this out. Operate correctly when in session view and vice versa. So I'm guessing you're asking if I MIDI map, say, a volume fader, or if I MIDI map, right now I have, I can map something to metronome. So I want the letter M to turn on and off the metronome. Or a great example is actually the fact that I have my microphone mapped to one of my faders on an APC 40. So here you can see the mapping. You can also see it here. So track volume for the A return is mapped here. And I have it mapped here as well. You can see it here. You can see it here. So I'm going to move the same fader on my APC 40. It's moving the volume in the A return. I go over to session view. We can see it moving the fader here. So just for you guys who are newer to live, session view and arrangement view can be a little confusing. We have a couple clips here in session view, and we have a couple clips here in arrangement view. And just because something's in arrangement view doesn't mean it's in session view, and vice versa. If I delete all of these, everything's still here in arrangement view. We have two different palettes, or two different creative spaces to make music. And everything is tied together with the mixer section. So anything down here in the bottom is exactly the same in both views. So the routing is the same, our sends are the same, all of our panning, volume, mute, solo, and then even the crossfade is the same in both views. So if I were to change the volume of Like a Lion in session view, we can see it's been changed here. Let's just do a pan, hard left. You can see it's hard left over here. Same with devices. If I have devices on any of these tracks, so let's say on Like a Lion, I just want to put an EQ. So this EQ is affecting the subgroup Like a Lion, so it's affecting all of these tracks since they're all being sent. Well, They aren't, but if they were being sent to the group, they would all be submixed here like a lion. And I broke that earlier by making it sends only. So now this group is being EQ'd. If I make a change, something like this, I flip over, that change is there as well. So I hope that answered your questions. Yeah, so most MIDI mappings that correspond to all MIDI mappings that correspond to both views work in both views. There are some MIDI mappings that don't cross over. So if I MIDI mapped a chorus, let's just say this is the chorus. Add a locator, chorus. We can MIDI map this or key map this. So I'm just going to key map it for the sake of simplicity. Command K gets into key map mode, or I can select the key map mode at the top right. I can map this locator to number 1. Hit it, it's mapped, back out. So if I push 1, it's going to launch the chorus. Well, let's see. Supposed to map up the chorus? Let's see here. What's going on? Yeah. Try something else. Let's try Q. Maybe it has to be playing. That's probably it. There we go. Okay, so if it's not playing, this is my bad. If it's not playing, it just jumps to that location. There we go. Learn something new every day. If it's playing, I'll just hit Q and it will launch the chorus. Okay, so if we go over into session view, there's no corresponding mapping to that in session view. We don't have anything to do with locators in session view. So that mapping doesn't really do anything when we're over here. I hope that answers your question. Okay. What are the benefits of running tracks in arrangement view versus session view? Okay, so this is the ultimate question. Guys who like Ableton Live argue about this all the time. Session view for tracks versus arrangement view. Now, the way I see it, session view makes it easier for a seamless flow to where someone doesn't have to trigger songs. So what I mean by that is, say the music director or worship leader can set up all the songs, all the transitions exactly how they want it. If they want a 2-measure gap between song 1 and 2, they can create that in arrangement view. If they want to automate tempo, if they want to automate, say, a send to reverb, all that can be perfectly mapped in arrangement view, and you just hit play and it plays. You can also create some locators and jump back to some places in the song. However, that can get very cumbersome because you'll have to have a MIDI mapping or a key mapping to every single locator. So if you have 10 songs and you want to repeat the chorus in 10 songs, you have 10 MIDI mappings. That can get a little overbearing if you haven't rehearsed or haven't practiced or not used to it. So I would say arrangement view is great for set it and forget it. Hit play and you don't have to worry about it. I'm sorry, arrangement view is good for set it and forget it and don't come back, don't worry about it. But in session view, we can basically create scenes like we did before. We can select time and we can say create, consolidate. Okay, let's do the next part. Consolidate time to new scene. We can also put different songs in each scene. So maybe for song 2, we want the full song and then the last chorus here. And all I need is one MIDI mapping to launch all of my songs, and I have an up-down to go between my songs. If I go into MIDI map mode, we can see the ability to map play, up, down, and then we have the ability to map an encoder to go up and down and scroll through our scenes. So now, with only 3 MIDI mappings, I can go up and down and launch whatever scene that whatever scene is selected will launch with one button.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I also think this is much cleaner. If you have 10 songs in arrangement view, that can be a mile long. And if you're trying to scroll around, make some changes, it can be kind of cumbersome. In session view, I have, 12 different songs, and they're all easily accessible. They're all easy to see. Personally, I like session view for running tracks because I also run keys. I play keys. So I can have my plugins and my soft synths all lined up in session view as well. Now, one of the complaints was that in arrangement view, I can do automation. I can dip out some drums. So let's say I hit play here. And say I wanted to create a fade in. Well, in arrangement view, that's really easy. Just do something like that. Okay. And in Live 8, if I were to drag this over to session view, I would lose all of that automation I created. But now with Live 9, I don't lose any of that. I can bring all of that around wherever I go. Any automation changes that I make, follow that clip wherever it goes. So with Live 9 now, I don't see any reason why you would not want to use. Let's warp it first. Show. Okay. So with Live 9, I don't see any reason why you'd not want to bring that over and use it in Live, use it in session view as well. So I messed that up. Let me show you exactly how to do that. We're going to get rid of this. Okay. So we're going to make sure warp's on. That's the only way you can get automation to follow with it. Let's see here. Well, this work. So we're going to come down here to the actual clip and change the automation. So we have that nice fade in, and now if I bring that over to session view, we have that fade as well. So now we can record automation into a clip in session view or in arrangement view, and we're not going to lose that when we go back and forth. The mistake I made was trying to automate this track volume, and I wouldn't do that because if we had multiple drum stems on one track, we don't want to mess that up when we go from song to song. Okay, let's see what's next. Okay, can you please explain the annoying back to arrangement view button? What does that mean? Okay. Okay, Matt's telling me to wrap it up. Well, let me answer that real quick. So, our tracks can only play one clip at a time. And I'll do this as fast. This is the most confusing part, and I'll try and explain it as quickly as I can. If I hit play in arrangement view, nothing is playing in session view. Now I can override one of these clips with session view. So I want to launch this ARP. Okay, so now this clip is playing in session view. And we can see the ARP has been grayed out. And the back to arrangement view button has turned orange. And this orange button is telling you something in arrangement view isn't playing. In this case, it's this clip. It could be volume, it could be tempo, it could be anything. So basically, if you want to hear everything you see in arrangement view. Right now we're not hearing this clip. I need to hit back to arrangement view. Now it's not grayed out, and I hear everything I see. That's very quick, down and dirty. There's a couple other things that go along with that, but that's the easiest. If you see that back to arrangement view button, you're not hearing everything that you see. So I think that's it, guys. Thank you so much for joining. I wanted to remind you that we have a couple different things here. We have the Loop Elite program. It's a subscription. You can save some money with a subscription if you buy loops quite a bit. If you buy, say, 6 loops a month or 3 multi-tracks a month, we can save you $120 per year if you subscribe. And also, an annual plan can save you $200 a year. Remember, this is actually a really cool program. So to kick that off and to help promote it, we actually are giving away 5 licenses for Suite 9 for the first 5 people who sign up for this program. So for $550, $549, you get to save $200 per year on on 72 loops or 36 multi-tracks you download during that year, and you get a free copy of Suite 9. That is unheard of. Suite 9 by itself is $799. So that's a great offer there. We can also, for those of you who aren't live users yet, we have a really cool iPad application. It's called Prime. And this allows you to play any of the multi-tracks that you have purchased from Loop Community on your iPad. And it's super simple. You can see it's a play, stop, pause. You have your playlist, and you have your volume. So it's basically Ableton Live, very simplified on your iPad, and it's free. So make sure you check that out. And then, for those of you who aren't who don't want to take up our offer for the annual subscription plan and Live Suite 9, there's 5 of you who get that. If you miss it or you don't want the subscription plan, I don't know why, but if you don't want that, we're actually selling Suite 9 right now for $679 instead of $799. So if you want to take advantage of that, make sure you send an email to LoopLive@loopcommunity.com. That's LoopLive@loopcommunity.com, and we'll save you some money with Suite 9. So that is it for this broadcast. I'm going to stick around on the chat and try and help some more of you guys with some questions. Again, if you have any one-on-one training needs, there's a bunch of us. Make sure you check it out on the website. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you learned something, and we'll talk to you guys soon.